Good morning. Once in a while in the life of literature, a moment comes, a book becomes an event. In Malayalam literature, it happened with Meera's first novel, Arachar, translated as Hangwoman. I think before that, I grew up reading a generation of Malayalam writers. One of them is here, my good friend M. Mukundan, Vijayan, Mukundan, Kakanadan, Sakaria. That was a time when they broke away from the obvious social realistic, the gutter realism of Keshav Dev, that generation. That was a rupture in Malayalam literature. There was a time when, from the farthest corner of the planet, a few writers imagining the world and dancing with them in their palm. That was one of the romantic moments in Malayalam literature. I think that was the boom years of modern Malayalam literature, like the Latin American boom years of Garcia Marquez and Fuentes and Llosa. The generation of Vijayan and Mukundan, Kakanadan, Sakaria, it was a redeeming shift from the social, realistic tradition of the Malayalam literature. And then, after Kasakan Idihasam and Mukundan, okay. And Mukundan, why don't you come? Come. It will be nice. And so we have two, on my left hand, I'm flanked by two generations. And Mukundan, of course, defies generations. He is biologically and figuratively and metaphorically always young, a permanent romantic. And then, Meera. Meera was an event. Meera was an event in Malayalam literature. And that book, it introduced a new sensibility, new idea of imagining, I won't say womanhood, imagining suffering, dissent, a new kind of social consciousness and imagination in perfect harmony, because I had not read such a book in any language in recent time. It was amazing imagination, and like most of the modern novel, that imagination is accessorized by great research. It has a sense of place, it has a great sense of atmosphere, and it was a fascinating story, and it has one of the greatest protagonists, a woman of our time in literature. Chetana is there to stay as long as imagination is there. So welcome, Meera, and welcome, Mukundan. And I just want to start with a question about, do you as a writer, mark a shift from the Malayalam as it was imagined by your predecessors like Mukundan?
Yeah, it was not easy to overcome the previous generation, including Sri M. Mukundan. As you said, actually, he is eternally young. Forever, evergreen heroes of Malayalam literature are always there, and the generation, our generation, when we try to make a mark of ourselves, it was very difficult to erase the memories of what they had written and replace it with our own new ideas and words. I think as a young generation of writers in Malayalam, we are one of the most fortunate generations in India, because we have our senior writers whom we read and who contributed to our growth are still there. They are still there, and it's like joining a flow of ideas and new innovations. So in that way, we are a very lucky generation. And it's not easy to overcome them, and it's not easy to compete. I won't use the word compete, because there's no competition in literature. It's all contribution only. So you have to prove to yourself as well as to the world that you have something new to tell, something newer, something stronger to tell. And it's a great challenge we face.
And Mukundan, how do you see the new generation coming up? Because whenever a new generation come, it's a new beginning as well as it is a repudiation. You think that Meera sitting here across you is that a new sensibility much different than the way you and your generation imagined?
I think there is an invisible continuity. Currently, so I think that she gives the impression that, she is a continuity. She is continuing what we have been doing. But I don't believe in continuity usually, because I have respect for the predecessors, you see. But with great respect, I want to get out of them. That's what I tried when I started writing. Because otherwise, the residues, the residues they are always lingering, in your mind. So I wanted to have a complete break with the past, with due respect to all my predecessors. And Meera, I think you should be bold enough to say that. We very often, we don't. We are
people
not bold
always
enough
complain
to,
that.
We are not bold enough to say that, but we should say that. You see, if you examine the history of literature, you'll find that everywhere, the great writers, they have.
No, the truth is now, when we look at the stream of literature, especially in Malayalam, stream of thoughts in Malayalam, we find that we are all following the same path. We are all traveling the same road, taking one step ahead at a time. And so maybe the themes we handle or themes we treat will be a bit different. The way we look at the world will be different. But again, the genetic material is the same.
Okay. I just want to come back to your Hangwoman. I think that novel has become part of a defining moment in Indian literature, and it will continue to be, because if you look at the Malayalam literature, certain books mark defining moments, like Kasakinte Digasam, or by Vijayan, or by Mayari Pudeda Thirangal, by the river Mayari, by Mukundan. Now, Hangwoman. Because, and here, there is a very, I won't say feminist, but there is a very feminine sensibility that book has. And will you agree with me, in this book, body is destiny for Chaitanya, because for her, she's vulnerable and she's very strong. She's tender, she's tough, she's sensuous, she's savage. And for her, the entire thing is played out sometimes very obviously on her body. Is body destiny for her in your imagination in this book?
That's a right or freedom of the reader to read it out. As a reader, you have every freedom to interpret it any way you want. But the thing is, that book actually, destiny of Chaitanya is her Chaitanya. And it is true that most of the women writers, we start with writing about our body. Because I have been thinking about why we are kind of connected to the body compared to a man. A man is always, when a male writer writes about a theme, actually he will be looking at the body from outside. It's a male gaze, if you want to explain that. But when a female writes, maybe all the women writers write about their body, because it's through the body they first experience the world. Its love, its hatred, its sharpness, everything. We women experience it through the body, and so we may start with the metaphors of body to begin with. It's quite natural. And in Hangwoman, I was trying to record the emotional evolution of the women of our country.
Okay.
The country, the women who were rendered invisible all through the history. We don't talk about women in the history much. There are only one or two or a few compared to their male counterparts. So I wanted to record that history, which had been unrecorded ever in our literature. You always, even women writers, we tend to look at women characters or lives of women through the eyes of the society or the men. So I wanted to break that. I wanted to say something new. Maybe it's nothing new, but again, I wanted to present it in a new angle.
But because there's for woman, it's for her where her
Maybe body is not a destiny, but body is not that.
no, I just put it that way. That's so. It's a permanent struggle for the relationship is a permanent struggle. And you said that you wanted to record the untold, the invisible histories of women. In that process, you think that your women characters are amazing. You think that sometimes men become caricatures?
I just wanted to, wanted to record that actually. If you are placing a burden of one of the two or three maybe nowadays, you're all going to be going to suffer because of that. If you are kind of chaining your women who constitute the 50% of your population, of course the rest of the 50% who are going to be the chainers, or they are also going to suffer. This burden of gender discrimination, when placed on the woman, is going to create a lot of problems for the rest of the population also, and we are not aware of that. And there's no meaning in such a cut and dry or watertight compartmentalization of gender. All men and women are alike in many things, but you attribute certain qualities to each and say that it is gender specific. Gender is not genetic, or gender is not natural, it is man-made.
Mukund, you're coming from another generation. You think that a writer should wear his or her social consciousness on her sleeve, or should imagination should be subordinated to social consciousness of a writer?
You see, well, here I am in Bombay, so I can speak freely. But in Kerala, it's very difficult. The situation there is such that, well, I have been talking about it very often. But the most important thing in Kerala is that you should be politically correct when you write a novel. You see, if it is politically incorrect, however great your novel is, people won't accept it. So I'll just give you an example. What is politically correct? For somebody has written a novel on the Jew community in Kerala, but nobody is talking about it. It's a great novel. It's about the Jews, but nobody is talking about it in Kerala because politically that's incorrect. Because they are with Palestine. You see, they are with Palestine and Arafat. So just because of that, people don't accept this novel. So that is a particular situation in Kerala. So in Kerala, if you want to really make a name, or if you want your work to be successful, you have to be politically correct. Because there is an invisible, how to say that, you have to follow that. There's a law, invisible law, and you have to follow that. And in Meera's case, what I think in Kerala, her book is viewed in a different way. Because I think I will seek your comment on it. That I will just tell you how they perceive it in Kerala. Because Chetana is considered as a symbol of women empowerment. That's how they see it. Because it's a powerful. A woman is turning a hangman or hangwoman. So people think that that is really an empowerment of women. But I think it's negative. It's a negative kind of empowerment. A woman becoming a hangwoman, that's a kind of negative empowerment. This sort of perception is there in Kerala. And I think outside Kerala, the book is better accepted, I think. In Kerala, it sells very well. She has created kind of record, selling over 100,000 books. No other book has sold so many copies in such a short period. over a lakh. Now I think more than almost nearing 2 lakhs. 1.5. That's the kind of record. So no other, there are greater writer than Mira, of course, but they couldn't. So, but what matters, in spite of all that, the book sells well, it's accepted, in English also it's accepted, and it's beautifully translated. Instead of all that, I think you didn't have the kind of success which you are having in English in Kerala. People are criticizing, and I think mostly it's because some people are jealous. That's also a reason.
First of all, I want to disagree with you regarding the political correctness. As a writer and as a person, I strongly believe that everything personal is political and everything political is personal. So you can't just detach the political part from your personal life or personal attitude or even outlook and present it as something, a marketable thing for the people to consume as a consumer product. I disagree with you.
Okay.
I'm so really sorry. But the thing is, when the political correctness becomes the correctness of the humanity when it has enough farsightedness and social awareness and social commitment. Without that, no writer is going to be a good writer or a human writer. So political correctness should always be there. Of course, it will be influenced by the times we live, the writers and the readers, of course. That's why some of the books which are written in during one time span or one age will be read in a different way in another age. It's natural, but how far you can look into the future? How can you judge yourself with your own shortcomings is what makes a book and a writer truly important.
Yeah, I agree with you that every novel there's nothing called a political novel or a novel of ideas. Every novel is political ideas, go through every novel. So, but apart from that, but certain novels carry a huge, the political become kind of an adjective. Somewhere Milan Kundera said, every novelist is trapped in history like a Euro.
I think all my writings are purely political acting.
Yeah. So
it is political.
Yeah.
I won't say that it's personal or individual or it is literary. It is politics. It is political.
So how much growing up in Kerala or in your social context or social milieu defined your political mind?
I'm so lucky that I was born in Kerala because I got the best of two worlds. At the same time, we know what male chauvinism is, and we know what the life of an intellectual is, and we know what political freedom is, and that contributed a great deal to shape my ideas. If I were living in a very free, very modern, very society, I don't think that I would have been strong enough or capable enough to look at the life like I can do now. Because I was there, I know what freedom is, what its value is, what hypocrisy is, and what integrity is. I think all Indian writers are very fortunate in this regard, especially the women writers.
Yeah, but Kerala is, I would say Kerala is, there is a revolutionary chic in Kerala, because most of the redundant ideologies still haunt the mind of the Malayali, because in that sense, how much you defy that ideological some kind of a domination in Malayali's discourse, and that is most of the times it is against history. It defies the way history moves, the way the world moves. I think somewhere you live in the make-believe of most of the orphaned ideology, still in Kerala. I think Kerala is the last refuge of the orphaned spectre of communism, even now it is.
I think the generalization is always will be erratic. No? But the thing is, we are like alligators, that we'll be in the water most of the time, and once in a while we come out to and pose like real animals. Otherwise, we will be fishes. No?
Okay.
So this kind of this dilemma is always in a Malayali, I think. You want to be immersed in the pond of whatever, the old ideas, everything. You live most of the time in that. And once in a while you come out and show to the world that you are different.
I want to ask you specifically one thing, I will come back to you. Because since I said about communism, but the Kerala still, the word communism matter, and it is very male, and it's about power, and everything about communism is very male driven, and it is almost so. But have you ever descended against such an intellectual atmosphere in which you are writing? Yeah, is this, yeah.
Against communism?
No, not against or what, or you found it very stifling.
I have a very strong left leaning. But I'm not a CPM or CPI or any, I'm not a member of any left parties, because I don't find any left parties as a safe place for a humanist to work in.
Okay.
I mean the parliamentary parties, no? But as a political animal or a political member, I have a very strong left leaning. I believe in socialism. I earn for socialism, that's all there. And when you have to look at the life from the political aspect as well as the spiritual aspect, sometimes it is kind of creating a dilemma or a confusion. But again, to find that answer is the question of the writer. It's a task of the writer.
Of course. Mukundan, your evolution as a writer to some extent parallels the political evolution of Kerala to some extent. You know, ideological. How do you react to what Meera just said?
Well, you see, in my case, you know what I've been doing. I believe in communism, but I don't believe in communists. See, that is what I do. Yeah. So I believe in politics, but I don't believe in politicians. That is my, you see, conviction. And I've been writing on these lines. I will write about communism, but I will never write about communists. You see, I think we should do like
Even
that.
if you don't write about that, people at least that you are writing about the communists and attacking you.
No, I've written, for example, a novel on EMS. You know, EMS Namboodiripad is the great communist leader. But in fact, you know, what I wrote was not on him, as a person, but on his ideology, what he has been doing, you know. So that when I don't write about a person and I write about ideology, it gives me certain freedom. But when you write about a person, you are not that free. So what I have done in this novel particularly, well, I'm talking about this novel because it marks a period of change in me. So I don't know why I should talk at length about it, but what I have done is that, you know, I wrote about this great leader, and at the same time, I was critical about certain things. And I think that we should be like that. A writer should be like that. So when you write, you should be critical. And for that, you know, what stands on our way, that is what I have told you, the question of political correctness and or incorrectness. But it matters in Kerala, in a place like that, you know, you have to consider these things. Otherwise, you can't survive there. For in certain cases, you know, when you are really very, very popular, you may not need them. For example, if I write in English, or I may not need them. But otherwise, you know, my readers are in Kerala. And I'll tell you, I tell you bluntly what's happening. And sometimes, if a political party, if that party wants, it can finish us. It is possible in Kerala. Yeah, I don't name
It
the
was
party.
possible in the 16th century also, no? It happened in the 16th, 15th, 14th centuries. It always happens.
It's
But
happening.
Being finished is nothing to be afraid of. When you
No,
have
it's,
something
it's
to write.
not a question of because no, I don't accept whatever terms they dictate. I don't accept, but this is a fact. Yeah, I will just tell you how a party can kill a writer. That is most of the libraries in Kerala. There are about 7,000 libraries are controlled by a certain party. But when a well-known writer publishes a novel, let's say a novel, so there is a guarantee that these 7,000 libraries will buy a copy each. And it's good. But if you are against them, they can ask these libraries not to buy your book. Okay? That's what I mean. You see, I'm talking in practical terms. I'm not talking in other terms like philosophical terms. Practically, this is how they can get rid of a writer. But what happens now? Now what's happening? People, writers like Meera and me, we don't have to depend on these libraries because individuals buy books. Because you sold 1.5 lakh books, it's not these libraries who bought it. You see, it's our individuals. So now we have reached a stage where we can just forget these 7,000 libraries. We have readers, they will buy. That is something I think there's a new hope in the horizon.
Okay. Do you both of you live in the same Kerala or do you live the same Kerala where Mukundan live?
Maybe we live in two ages.
Okay. I think a writer, if you look at historically, there is isms always come in the way of imagination because there is the argument with ism, any kind of isms, it's a socialism or communism has been a part of the liberating experience of literature. If you look at through Europe or Latin America or even Kerala, even Mukundan generation, even a writer like Vijayan, because, or you think that now the new generation talking about isms, is there some kind of historical conformity or is coming there into play? How? No.
How do you read it out?
No, just asking because since you are a very, very politically conscious writer, and what do you mean by I believe in socialism? I just want to know what is your idea of socialism, for example, in this 21st century? What does it mean for you?
Of course, in the 21st century, it's not the same socialism which Marx or Engels had envisioned. Now, actually, we need a kind of space and freedom for each and everyone. For the space, how to term it, I am not sure how to express it, because where you have a say, each one of us have a say in everything. Social equity may be the right word to master it, to express it. Then the new age demands a kind of participation from each and every one of us in politics, in economics, in literature, everywhere. And the way you look at it is more important than how you define it.
Okay. But I find some kind of there is a romantic celebration of the revolutionary even in the Hangwoman, in the Naxalites, the reference to it. There is you still believe in this kind of the heroism of the revolutionary, or the romance of being a revolutionary?
No, the heroism of the revolution, the process of revolution. I believe in it.
Okay.
I strongly believe in it. And I truly believe that words and thoughts can change world in their own way. It may not be instantaneous. And that's what which keeps me going as a writer. I strongly believe that if you keep on reinforcing certain ideals, certain thoughts, certain innovative ideas, at one point or other, the world has to open its eyes to us.
But do you have to be you have to use the word like a revolution or being an Naxalite? No.
The point is, no, how do you define the word revolution? Is it a kind of an overnight revolution? A blood
No, anything for a physical a revolution means a physical aspect to change. There's a physical manifestation. It can be violent for change.
Yeah, it can be violent in a very internal way.
Internal way.
And
Okay.
inner violence.
Yeah. But in
I'm not sure whether I but I believe in I don't believe in physical violence, but I do believe in spiritual violence.
Okay. What do you think about
I
that?
believe in creative violence. Yeah, that's what
It's
we
the
should
same
do.
thing.
Creative violence.
It is the same,
And we need it.
two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
Same coin. Yeah,
This is-
because that's what we need in Kerala. You know, Kerala is a surrealistic country. You know, it's a country. It's not, it's a country in fact. And it's very surrealistic. I'll just tell you where we have traveled earlier. See, some 50 years ago, when I was very young, and people used to complain about, we are starving, we have no food, we have no shelter. That was the main complaint from everybody. We are starving. So now, we have traveled almost 50 years, and recently somebody complained to me. I was near my hometown. There's another town, larger town called Telicheri. Then I found a man, there in a car. So he stopped. Seeing me, he stopped. And I said, what are you doing? Then he said, I am tired. I'm tired of life. So I asked him what happened. He said, you see, I'm tired of life, tired with my life. And I said, what went wrong with you? He said, there's no place to park my car in the city. This is where we have traveled. 50 years ago, we complained about the food, shelter. Now we are complaining that we have no place to park the car. Yeah. And so we have traveled this much. And in the same place, we are so inhuman to women. See, you have seen what's happening in Kerala. Last week, a famous film actress, she was molested in a car and all that. So on the one hand, we say that we are the most educated.
She was attacked. It is not molested. She was attacked.
She was
attacked.
It is euphemistic language, but she was in fact. I think so because nobody knows what happened. But she was attacked. Okay, let us say. So this is why we have so. These are the problems we face. On the one hand, we say that we are the most educated people and almost 100% literacy, and it's a communist state. Because you know that in 1957, for the first time, a communist party came to power through election. So all these things are happened in Kerala, and even now in a woman, she cannot travel all alone. Salma was telling me this morning that when she went to, she told me, when she went to Kasaragod to attend a festival, she was asked not to go out after 7 o'clock all alone. So where we have reached in Kerala, see, there is... So that's why I think that there should be violence, but as you said, or as I said, it should be creative violence.
I have a point of disagreement in that too, because you said that starvation is not our problem anymore in Kerala. Actually, it's still there. Starving people are there. People who are very poor are still there. The only difference was that in your times, earlier, maybe 50 years ago, they had more visibility. Now they don't have. We see more cars, more than pedestrians. And where do these people go? The starving people, the poor people. Those people have no visibility in our public spectrum. That's what disturbs me as a writer.
I don't know. I think there's very, very few people who are starving. Very few. Maybe
it's not because they are not
maybe
starving.
In the tribal area, Adivasi areas and all that. But in Kerala, for example, I haven't seen any beggar who is a Malayali. You hardly see any beggars in Kerala, but if ever you come across a beggar,
they are begging in
he's
other
from
states.
the neighboring states.
And you believe that Kerala is not just a state; it's a state of mind, culturally, and even in its expression of violence and its expression of conformity, because there is some kind of an intellectual uniformity in Kerala, because everybody has to be a leftist intellectual, you cannot be anything else. So everybody has to, idealize the revolutionary heritage, but you cannot accept a different point of view. So you think so? It is, Kerala is that way? It's a stifling place for a liberal-minded person?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
We have all ideas there.
Okay.
Nowadays we have, not all are leftists. Even the leftists can be Gandhians too. They can be kind of very religious too. In every way, it's kind of a very a microcosm of the whole.
But you think fiction has a social purpose? You think so?
I think all writing has a social purpose.
No, novel as an art has a social purpose.
Of course.
I do. I believe that. Yeah. But then you have to define what is social purpose. that is where you. That is the problem. What is social purpose? Yeah. Write for whom? Yeah. Now I want to write for those. All. People like marginalized people. We call them marginalized people, like poor people or Adivasis or tribal people and all that. You see. So I would like to be with them, to write about them, such people. And I also want to, I don't know, perhaps I am deviating from the subject, but I think that there's a war going on, a war between the big and the small. It's everywhere. Okay. The small and the big, it's a great war. And in this war, I am with the small people.
Okay. I just want to ask Meera, because being a woman, how much that your gender, your sexual identity defined your imagination?
Yeah, I don't think we have enough time to discuss that because you will have to record the whole life story.
Yeah, tell us. That is why we are here. So
it's not easy to live as a woman in a man's world. Because as a woman, either you will be reminded of your womanhood all your way. You won't be treated as an equal citizen. You won't be treated as an equal citizen in the home or outside the home or in the workplace, even among your readers. And I think every woman writer has been subjected to this kind of harassment.
But in your book, there is the idea of liberation is very violent. Even for she's not a submissive woman, and in Arachar, for example, even the rope feel that I'm a woman. I feel like even the rope feel like a woman. So you think that it has to be violent, liberating experience?
Yeah, I already said that in Arachar or Hang Woman, I wanted to bring out this womanhood as a condition we experience. A woman is a condition, and man is an attitude. It's not about, I was not talking about some of the men or he or he or he or she or she or she. I was talking about the attitude versus the condition.
But attitude sometimes, you think that, attitude sometimes get caricatured. For example, one is two journalists, one is Madhav and one is Sanjeev Kumar, and so they are types, because what your woman characters are much more complex, much more deeper, and you cannot even categorize them. You can pin them down, because they defy all kind of conventions in their inner world.
See, so you agree that there are some conventions regarding...
No, but why the men in that process?
Men also are subjected to convention.
Yeah, but the men most of the time end up as caricatures sometimes in your book.
Because there are so many men. The world belongs to the men. It's a man's world. So it's easy to picture them as caricatures.
Okay, so you agree with that. Are you a caricature, Mohan? You are a caricature as a man?
Maybe earlier writers used to have caricatures of women. Why don't
really?
you accept that?
Hmm.
If you say that the
No.
male characters in women's writings are caricatures of men.
No. I'm talking about the specific books in Hangwoman,
okay.
and even in the Poison
Poison of
Poison.
Love.
Yeah.
Yeah, you had been used to, or you had been reading so much about men in such a way that you have to look at them from a different view also. In fact, I'm really concerned about men rather than women. I think that our men are rendered very helpless emotionally, politically, and spiritually, very helpless in these days. There is a strong disparity between these empowered women and the disempowered men. And that is going to be the greatest social calamity we are going to face. And I want to help the men in that process by helping them to have a better view of the world they live in, the better view of their counterparts, about women, transgenders, and it will help them a lot. Because if you want to change someone, you will have to be the keeper of that chain. It is like being chained. Both of them are being chained. Both of them are suffering the burden. I want to help the men to look at the world from my point of view, so that they will help it will help them to evolve as better human beings. This evolution should be there, no? Mental evolution. And it will help them to live in a more happy way, the life, a better world.
Here too, is it something very specific to Kerala or for a Malayali writer? This the male as some kind of something you have to overcome rather than to cohabit.
No, I don't
No.
say we have to overcome. If we want to overcome, all of us should overcome.
Mm-hmm.
When a woman has to overcome the conventional chains we are talking about, men also have to overcome that, because at the other end of the chain, there is the man.
You think it is Kerala, the male is an idea which has to be overcome by the woman?
I agree with Meera. Now we have to empower man. That is true. Man, we have to empower. That is the reversal of the history. So man, especially reading Meera's novel, Hangwoman. So really, I believe that man has to be empowered. So that is the next stage of revolution we have to take place. That has to take place, and yeah, I believe so, frankly. And women are everywhere in Kerala. In all walks of life, we can see them in everywhere, whether in writing, in literature, or in politics, in economics, and everywhere, in all walks of life, we find the strong presence of women in Kerala now.
And that's why misogyny is so prevalent. The more you see the downtrodden, or the minority, or the helpless, or the weak, more stronger will be the reaction towards that. And I would say that misogyny is very prevalent in Kerala right now. And one reason is that women get more visibility. Women wants to talk out. Their voice is heard, and it brings out a kind of a very inner conflict which we have to overcome.
Okay.
Actually, it's not men that women have to overcome, but that conflict we have to overcome.
But to deviate a little bit, Meera, because for me, your book is much bigger than your sociology or your politics, because they are as piece of art. I think the more we talk about the sociology of your book, I think we are reducing the fiction to some kind of a social parameters. I think Arachar is much bigger than what we have been talking about here. And as a work of fiction, it is not the sociology that matters. It's the details of which, the characterization, the architecture of the novel, and in the novel in which imagination, memory, and history play out in such a perfect harmony. So I want to talk about a little bit about the art of fiction, the art of the novel, as you practice it. So there was a time when, especially for some of the women writers, writing was a question of sheer emotional experience. But the modern novel is it is hard work. You have to do a lot of research. Not only you have to go to the library and you have to do the field work. There is a lot of even scholarship involved in that, because you have to. It is not just imagination alone. When Arachar is a good example of that, it has a greater sense of a place and a lot of historical sense. It has a mythological sense, and so how do you define this kind of this process of writing a novel?
Yeah, as I said earlier, actually, the generation of Sri M. Mukundan, Novi Piche, and M.D. Vasudevan, T. Padmanabhan, Madhavikutty, Sarah Joseph are all there. So we have to tell a new tale or the old tale in a new way to be noticed, to be read, to be understood. And that was a big challenge.
Okay.
So in this case, actually, I had planned this novel to be whenever I wanted to write something, I don't know what craft or what sort of narration will I accept for the theme, but all I know is that which emotion I want to bring out through that.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was planning to write about Arachar and about death sentence, all I wanted that to subject my readers to that feeling or experience of hanging. So I wanted to bring out that kind of experience, and so I thought of creating a craft like I spin the rope, different strands being spun together so that it will form a noose in the end and kill the reader.
No, this you see about
you think that you are the old story?
I've been thinking, for all these years, what we had to do with our creativity.
Mm-hmm.
So recently, I happened to read Orhan Pamuk's book on the art of novel, the naive and sentimental novelist. You see, I've been trying to place whatever creativity I have, somewhere, in the scope of an ideology or philosophy. Because what Pamuk says is that, there are two kinds of writers. One is, you are born with creativity. You are creative. Very often you don't know that you are creative. And even if you don't write, even if you don't want to write, you will write because you are creative. So you write because you are creative. That is the first part of it. The second part is that you are aware that you are creative and you don't want to misuse it. You want to use it properly. You want to place it somewhere in the framework of philosophy or an ideology. You have to place it somewhere, and you think, you work hard, and you create something. So there are two kinds of writers. I think the option for us is evident. That is the second. We shouldn't misuse the creativity with which we are born. So think about it, work hard, as you said, work hard and create something unusual. That is what we are all trying to create something unusual, which in the past nobody has done. Naturally, we can have continuity or not, that is different. But we want to do something different. That's what each writer should do. And if we just examine the history of novel, this is what all the great writers have done. They do it differently. For example, in Latin America, that is the greatest intense resistance to dictatorship. The kind of violence we have seen in Saramago's novel, The Feast of God, that kind of violence was there in Latin America. And the writers who resisted that. They didn't resist the way a politician resists. They resisted creatively by creating something magical, an intense literature, intense novels. So this is what we had to do. So we are coming back to the question, social purpose and all that. This is what a writer has to do. Whatever creative he has, do something that is intense, powerful, that scatters everything. Well, this is ultimately what each writer should do. And we shouldn't make any compromise. I don't believe in making compromise. If I have made compromise, then I would have been a greater writer. But since I didn't want to make compromise, well, that's where I am. In any way, Meera, I just have a word about Meera. I have written a preface for your story.
It was kind of the best
Mohamanya.
awards, one of the best awards
So
I have ever
Yeah,
received.
so that day I
I
blessed.
always say that I was an ardent fan of Sri Mukundan, and the craft which he has used in his novels. I don't think so many people in Malayalam have experimented so much with novels, and it's very difficult to play with the craft in a novel. And each and every novel he has written has a different tone, narration, craft, everything, which is kind of fascinating. I'm just jealous of him.
No, I had that day when I wrote the preface, I had blessed her. So I am happy that she has
And
emerged as
he is
the.
one of the. I have never thanked him, but I may thank him in public now. That he is one of the few senior writers in Malayalam who is not uncomfortable with the people coming behind them. He has been very. Many of the writers had been very loving and caring to me, and it has been. I'm so happy that we have such good models in Malayalam.
But you think that you are much more, the new generation is much more privileged than his generation, for example, because when your book is now published in English, like a writer who is writing in English, it is accepted much more widely, not as a language writer, but as a national writer. You look forward to that book. But in Mukundan's time, it was very difficult to get even a good
I
translation.
just don't understand why it happened in that time, because it should have happened at that time.
I know.
I'm not sure why.
Yeah, because O.V. Vijayan used to say that if Kerala was a sovereign republic, there would have been much more greater writers. Some of the novels can be some of the best novels written any language, like Adur March movies, films. It can be one of the best movies anywhere in any language, any time. So you think that the remoteness of Kerala has contributed to the remoteness of the art of Kerala too?
Yeah, I think so. I think the remoteness, that's what you mean. It is necessary. For a writer, you have to be remote and keep distance, you see, from everything. From everything, that's what that's what I said, that I believe in communism but not in communism. Okay. So that kind of remoteness, that is very much required. And, well, what you said about the translation also, when in those days we didn't have professional translators, and we had to. What happens usually is somebody. Well, in normal course, it is a teacher, a professor of college. He reads a book, a novel, and he likes it. He will say, "Okay, let me translate it." That was the attitude. Now it's not like that. Now translation is a translator is a professional. It's a profession. It's a professional translator. It's a creative translator.
Maybe there is one more reason. Those days, actually, those who read Indian novels, in vernacular novels, could be able to read in the same language, the original. So the sister language as the translation was more strong, I feel. But these days, actually, there is a new generation who are reading English as their first language, and they need more Indian experience. Maybe that's one reason. I'm not sure of this, but I think it could be one reason. But anyway, translations are very important in today's literature, in Indian literature scene. And I'm so happy that people at last are aware or realize that there is so much happening in the regional languages. Because the Indian experience comes from the Indian language. Many people ask me why I don't write a novel in English. I said I won't do that blunder, because now I have two worlds, two languages, two readerships. And I don't want to risk one at the expense of the other. So, for the other. So, I think a translated author is stronger than an English author in India.
Okay.
That's a good point.
I think we should open the forum to the audience and.
Please ask questions to Meera, not to me, because well, she's the star of the day.
Yeah, gentleman there. Okay. After there is somebody behind you. After that, you can. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, since there has been so much of discussion around the place of writing in the social milieu and whether it can be transformative, I just wanted to put this question to K.R. Meera because people like us have at one point read Kamala Das, and of course it was quite revolutionary, some of the kind of ideas that she put forth. But she never sort of came out with any public kind of a proclamation of any kind of social transformation. It was a quiet internal dialogue which sort of could be interpreted in different ways. Now you have taken it up in a different level. Congrats for that. But as people who live in a city like Mumbai, and when we look back upon our home state, we see that, as it was discussed here, so much is happening down there which you cannot relate to the kind of social, progressions the state has seen. So in terms of the atrocities towards women. So what do we understand from this? I mean, despite different kind of approaches, different kind of people trying to depict, women, the issues of women over the years, why we are unable to bring about any kind of, transformation that a state like Kerala much better deserves. Like walking out after 7 o'clock is something which even a colleague of mine faced. Like when she traveled to Kerala, she was advised, 1, not to go out after 7. Number 2, never go to a movie alone. And this was quite embarrassing for people like us, So is it because we have to go back and believe in what someone like Archibald MacLeish says when poetry should not mean but be? So is it that poetry can or literature can make nothing happen, or are you still optimistic?
I didn't get the last part of the question. What was that?
Can writing really bring about any change?
Yeah,
or
people,
is it writing for its own sake?
As a reader, I too have, as a journalist and as a reader and as a citizen, I too had many times thought about this. What change have our women writers or writers in general, all the writers have brought in our society? So there is only one thing I can say. If they had not been writing, actually the world would have been a worse place, a much worse place. The kind of violence we propagate everywhere in the world. You can't detach yourself from that. The state of Kerala can't detach the wave of from the stream of violence, from the wave of violence which is happening everywhere in the world. But I strongly believe that because our writers had been talking about this, because they were discussing this all these years, the world had turned a safer place. Even now you will accept that Kerala is much safer a place in many ways compared to many other states. Of course, the atrocities towards women are there. The whole country is experiencing this, and our mindset has been playing a part in that. Even then, I am hopeful that take the latest incident which Mukundetan told about the actress. Actually, all these years we were kind of putting up a face, a world made of stereotypes, and one fine day, an actress, a public figure, has decided to complain, and she became ready. She just faced it at the risk of her honor as a chaste woman. So the world has of course changed. And we are talking about total citizenship, complete citizenship. Maybe we are not complete citizens even now, but internally, or we realize what our rights are, and it's very difficult, very important for us.
Okay, and you, sir.
I wanted to ask about college Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, it's fine.
Hello, I'm sorry. See the interconnection between politics and personal life. I think Meera was suggesting that it is always very well connected. But I'm not so sure, particularly in view of certain other viewpoints expressed. I was reading about what Dr. M.G. Parameswaran has written about socialism in 21st century. There he points out that politics today is like an inverted pyramid, with all the power being concentrated at the top among, say, a few hundred politicians or so-called leaders. They have their own ideas, their own vested interests. That is imposed on the society. The common man, or common citizen, man or woman, has a role only to vote. And that is once in a 5 years or something, where his or her real needs or values are not reflected in the politics of today. Because we follow some personalized models which need to be really changed by a true revolution.
Okay.
Not a revolution by just superficial violence,
Okay.
but something that needs change.
Okay. Thank you, sir. I think it's an observation. It's not a question. And anybody else? Yeah, yes, please.
In terms of Mukundan sir's novel, all of them go straight into your heart and stay there forever, creating nostalgia and memories. But ma'am, your novel, Arachar, it went straight into my head, and it had created a lot of conflict, and it's continuing till now. So did you really intend to do that, to create this kind of dilemma in the reader through the unconventionality of your novel?
I think your novel doesn't go to the heart, it
Yeah.
goes to the mind.
Maybe-
and Mundan's go to the heart and miss the mind.
There's
So-
only one
need both of-
explanation. There's only
No,
one
you need
explanation
both of
for
us.
that. Heart has many reasons which the head cannot understand, and head has many reasons which the heart cannot understand.
No, you need both of us. So you have both the heart and the brain. Yeah, that's it.
So, anybody? Yeah. You know, there is a.
I think mic is not required. Look, you can hear.
Yeah, you are louder enough.
Two things. One thing is actually the subject which is here. It was about contemporary Malayalam literature. I am afraid we are not touched that subject. It is totally concentrated either to Malayalam or to Aracha. That is one of the reservation I want to tell. And another aspect about Aracha. I got a big criticism when I talk about Aracha and wrote in the social media. I wrote that this is a novel for man, not for woman. So that you explained indirectly that you are writing for the man. Because Chaitanya Malik, the character, ultimately, it is a typical character which is following in all the Malayalam novels. Nothing new I see. I got a big criticism in the social media, especially Facebook. So that you are underlined enough. Indirectly you are writing for man. And Chaitanya Malik is ultimately surrendering. That is a common trend of Indian woman. That's one point just I want to point out. Another thing which I want to discuss is about the total Malayalam literature. That is not only novels or the stories. Many areas, including the social media. It's a big subject actually, it's a debatable subject for a one day. So that is not covered by this discussion. I feel that such a discussion can happen in a section which is there separately doing by the Litfish. So I'm thankful because the view which you put forward, not because actually in your short stories, previous, when it is coming to Arachar, I'm so sorry to tell that is not a best work of you. and I'm going to your short stories, I can feel more rebel and social-oriented characters than Chakra. That's all.
I'm so happy that you think that I can write better novels. Thank you so much.
You know, about the state of the Malayalam literature, because when you have, the purpose is to see where Malayalam literature stands today through the most contemporary writer from Malayalam, Meera. That's whole purpose. Rather than making it an inanimate discussion about the state of the Malayalam literature, when you have somebody like Meera here, she should talk about her art rather than talking about the general state of the Malayalam literature. I thought that's much more rewarding. There is no point in having here otherwise. That was the purpose. Any more questions?
Well,
Yeah.
I just want, since you have spoken so much about politics, like you have spoken about politics at length, so I just wish to know when over the years the politics of Kerala has become so disruptive, there is so much of political turmoil. So does that affect your flow of ideas or your flow of expression of ideas, your style of writing in any way? Do you feel restrained because of the political milieu, when it comes to expressing your opinions, your ideas, put forth your ideas? Because I know particularly from in a state like Tamil Nadu, when Amma was alive, when Jayalalitha was alive, reducing politicians, especially people of AI, the ruling dispensation, to an object of mockery was it would lead to a person being behind the bars. Even I hail from a state like West Bengal, where mocking at or criticizing, excoriating politicians, it would actually amount to lead to a very huge. You need to bear a lot because of that reason. You could. So I wish to know, since I don't belong to the state of Kerala.
You were asking me whether the political turmoil in Kerala
because
is
does it affect
contributing
your
to my creative
political
process
milieu?
or...
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. As a writer, I think I'm very evil mind because I like this kind of turmoil, because good stories come only from turmoil. That's what I believe as a writer. Only bad guys give you good stories, and bad situations make you a strong writer. So I like the kind of, or I welcome the kind of political turmoil which is the result of a conflict between different ideas. And when there is dissent and when there is difference of opinion, a turmoil or a conflict will result, and it will help the real thinkers, the real writers, the real poets to create more ideas for a better world. So in that way it is helpful.
Meera, I want to ask you, because when you're talking about Kerala and Malayalam literature, because you are so defined by the violence or the Kerala's the social milieu, but your big books are set not in Kerala, because it is physically, emotionally, Kerala is so much there, but in your words, but physically you seek some other landscape to set your stories.
Not all stories.
But your most big, that is, it is your most important work is, not set in Kerala. That is, it's amazing that how do you, without being a Bengali, the way you captured Calcutta is amazing. But the kind of is Kerala more an intellectual fascination rather than fiction? It doesn't get the proportionate physical representation. Am I right?
The reason for that is one thing, as you said, actually the old set of writers are there. They had been writing about Kerala so much that people may feel there is nothing new for us to tell. So we have to find a newer milieu for what we want to tell. And another thing is that I'm really planning to write a big novel set in Kerala, so that no one else will write anything on Kerala anymore.
Oh, okay, that's amazing. Yeah. Another one more question I want to ask you, because most of these writers, especially the women writers, they put too much their own story. There's people say that, first story you have to my story. Somebody has to say it. That has to come from yourself. In Arundhati Roy's first book, or it is so much ancestral, personal, become at least your, And in your case, it is more a matter of storytelling.
I very deliberately wanted to break from that
Your tradition.
tradition or convention or belief.
Okay.
I have read about I am a very good reader.
Okay.
Because more than I want to write, I want to read better
Yeah, yeah.
stories. So I had this decision that when I decided to start writing, I decided that I won't write about myself, or I won't kind of lament about myself other than looking at the life from my view.
Yeah.
A quick thought.
Any-
Yeah.
Excuse me, can you bit?
That's a big trap. That question has a big trap, which I refuse to fall into. I refuse to fall into that trap. So you have to evaluate that. You have to read it. You have to like it or not, as he said. You're open to like it or hate it, or get strength from that. It's your freedom as a reader.
May I?
Okay.
I think I'm just another drop in the river, which we were seeing flowing.
I think-
Just another drop.
I
There'll
think-
be much more drops to come.
Yeah.
There had been many more.
May I
think
draw your attention?
All the good things come to an end. I think we should wrap up the session. I think I'll take the privilege of let Mukundan ask the last question to Meera.
Sir, here.
Next question.
Yeah.
Tell
question.
Tell us about your next novel.
Yeah, I want to write a novel. The next novel will be again set in Delhi. That's all I can say about.
Oh, not a Kerala.
That's enough.
Not Kerala.
So after Calcutta,
But of course, there is another novel set in Kerala, which is a very big novel. Maybe that'll be the big novel which I want to write.
Okay.
so
It is such a wonderful session, and we had with us one of, I think, India's finest writers, and I think, you know, she's an experience which, for any reader, once you read it, it won't go away, and it is not a intellectual experience. I think it is not a sociological experience. It's the pure beauty of her storytelling skills, her imagination. That is what makes Meera what she is. She's writing is, as she said, Chetana for her, you know, and I think that we want more of that Chetana in the coming pages and more strength to your pen, Meera, and we are looking forward to your next books. Thank you. And thank you, Mukundan, for being here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Meera ma'am.